me see what I can do here. A little practice railing.
Uh-huh. So you cut your strips of the... This is the original plywood you were looking at.
Right, it's 6. So the idea is to glue it all up, route it, see what it looks like. See if it looks nice.
See what it looks like. It's a lot of... it seems pretty thick. Okay.
So this inch should be 1.5 inches, or close to it.
Looks
Maybe
like,
a little bigger.
looks like 2.
Not even 1 3/8. Of course, we could do another ply.
So you're just going to clamp it to the bottom of the rails for now?
I think that's probably a good idea for now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if that's something we could just do. That's probably how we'll end up doing it, on the bottom of the rails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you
that's where this, yeah, I know. That's where the strongest part is. And then we can just fit the tops. You know, if we gotta switch out 1 or 2 here and there, like this one kind of really sticks out, maybe a little bit more. The only concern with doing it on the bottom of the rails is that it's going to be narrower, right? So it'll all depend on how much give there is, you know, in the railing. Once it's glued, I don't know how much flex there's going to be.
Yeah.
Because the radius will be smaller in here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how much. It's pretty long, so we might get enough flex out of it to get like 1 inch.
Could clamp it to the outside.
Yeah, we'd have to. We just bolt it right through.
So we're going to do a test run with the plywood that Brian has before he goes out and buys the fancy plywood.
I want to see what kind of how this looks once it's been routed, glued, formed, routed, and sanded. Again, I don't like the middle ply in there, but it does make it very flexible. I can get an 8-foot sheets, which is important because then I can run 8-foot strips around. I can cover more territory, have a lot less joints. Because the more joints it is, the more difficult it's going to be to put together. And so I think that's the important part. So we'll see just kind of a test run, really just the routing capability, or the routing quality, and the sanding, how it looks.
you got enough clamps on there?
Someone will comment that there isn't.
There's never enough clamps. Apparently your dad thought the same thing. He had a whole bucket full of clamps. So you're thinking of another way to mark the posts?
Right, so if we just, because we're thinking now we're going to just clamp it at the bottom, because it's clearly sturdier down there. Then we'll, once it's dry, we just raise it up to where we want it, and then we use that as the marker, you know, after we trim it.
Yeah.
So probably need to do a quick plane of the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so next morning, what is gonna happen here?
It's gonna be perfect.
I love your optimism. Okay. I think it's gonna pop back just enough that we'll be able to put it right on the rail.
It's all disconnected now from the
rail. Ooh. Well.
So you can see how it slants right there.
Yeah.
That'll be okay. So it's like that. We're getting there, for sure.
So what would you have to adjust at this point?
I think I just gotta, let's see how it looks down here where it was attached. So you can see there's a gap there. I think that needs to be maybe 2 clamps, one further up like that to pull in.
Mm-hmm.
You can see there was some pull back right there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it slants out.
Yeah.
So we gotta pull this in more. I think maybe we could do is put a clamp. The pipe clamp might work. To maybe put this on a smaller pipe. But if we put one like here.
Vertical compression?
Yeah. To square it up more. Can maybe put one on there ahead of time in one spot or maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can apply pressure this way to help square up the slats. I think either way we can make it work.
Well, how's the fit though? Like what about the rail? How it fits on top of the railing?
I think it's gonna work regardless. The next one's 8 feet long. It's gonna go to that post over there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll have more of a round. So we just got to make sure when it's on that side that there's still some, so that something is pulling here in so that we still maintain a radius, a circle.
Uh-huh.
Because we run out of support here. It's not deflected this way.
Okay.
If this was on here, it would put more bend in this section here.
Okay.
But because there's nothing turning it, this remained straighter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no force on it. But if we had, if we had to make a joint after the fact, once it's dried, we could make the joint here, further down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to work out just fine. We just got to, we need a lot more working time with the glue.
Uh-huh.
And we need more of the glue, so it's more manipulative. And then,
Well, now you got to see how this sands and routes.
right, exactly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the planer. I'm going to plane the top of it
Okay.
and the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a 1/2 inch roundover bit that we can run on the top, and that'll make a nice radius.
Mm-hmm.
But so that plane it first,
Uh-huh.
then route it, sand it, and see what it, and then put some stain and urethane and see what it looks like.
Okay.
So
The only thing I'm nervous about is when you go to cut it, it's going to chip it all because of...
So when you run the router, you run it so it's cutting, the blade is moving into the wood, so you have a solid backing for the cutting blades. So it cuts in like that. So we'd run it down this way. If you run it this way, then it's cutting on the way out. And so it's actually pushing the wood away.
So
It could chip out real easy that way. So when you run the blades into the wood, then you have a solid piece behind it. So the cutting blades are going into the wood.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a nice clean cut. But regardless, regardless if there's a slope on the side, I think it's coming out okay. It's coming out good. So
yeah, it looks nice. I mean,
so yeah.
as far as shape-wise, it's definitely, it didn't really have any spring back, like
Right.
a little tiny bit, like 5%,
Right.
which is good because you want a little bit more than what the inner
Right,
radius.
and then there's some give here, and once we get this attached to here, and this bolted to the big block, it's really going to solidify up. It'll get real solid, and then we'll drop, lines down, like a plumb, a string down, and we can get where we're going to place the additional balusters, the metal ones. So use it with this clamped in place, then I can cut a nice little ledge
Okay.
right there, so I know exactly where to put it, and then it's just a matter of pushing it back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's enough play in I think all the balusters that we can set it on there. So I wonder what it would look like on the other side. If it would even go on the other side.
Well, that's what someone suggested, to put it on the outside. That way, when you're going up and down the stairs, your fingers aren't going over the balusters, getting
Right.
interrupted.
Okay.
I think it would feel bigger on the inside.
Right. Yep. I agree.
So, I think.
So that'd be good.
And it's probably easier to expand your radius rather than to contract it more, since we're using
Right.
the inner form.
Right.
You would almost guarantee that radius
Right.
doing it on the outside.
Right. So I think once we have the 8-foot sections, then it might be easier then to make a joint.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to be really hard to lay this up as it is and try and make the joint as we're going.
Right.
I think it'd be easier to saw it and make a joint after the fact.
Right. I agree.
So, and then, then
You're working with two dried forms that way.
right.
Yeah.
It'd be easier that way. A rabbited joint for this. So we would have the next piece would come in. So we can make a little block that goes in here. It's just to hold the joint in place. We wrap this. This is just a piece of the plywood that we make into just a spacer. Cover it with like wax paper. So we glue it all up, and then we can take this piece out
Right.
later.
Uh-huh.
And then we can just square this off.
Okay. So now we just got to see how it shapes up.
Right.
So if this shapes up really well, would you just continue using this plywood?
Yes.
Okay.
Because this is cheaper, less expensive. We got the nice look on the outside. So it's just a matter of how it's going to look on the surface.
Yeah, if it looks like crap, would you just put a veneer on the top?
We could try, we could try that.
But you wouldn't be able to have that rounded look, or could you still?
The veneers are super thin.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a matter of how well it glues on there. We would still have to urethane it. So have a nice smooth surface to glue and use a contact cement or some kind of a, I haven't done a lot of veneering, so.
Okay. All right, so let's see how it shapes up. All right, how'd it come out?
Adequate.
Adequate?
I think it'll be good. So,
Oh, that doesn't look bad at all.
you can see a little bit of pitting in there. So maybe if we can get some kind of a wood filler to put in there.
We could try staining it and see what it looks like.
Yeah. It sands off very easily.
Oh, okay. So
I'm happy with the way this is coming out.
yeah, so this is the test fit. We had to kind of go through all the steps before we really executed it. The biggest learning was the gluing. So we're going to adjust the gluing a little bit and the clamping. And
So we'll be using a different glue, obviously, and then a little more liberal. It just depends on the consistency of it. But I think overall it glued up well.
yeah, this definitely glued up well. And this was a shorter section, so it'll be a longer 8-foot piece.
Right.
When,
And then the challenge will be using creating the joints. So it'll definitely be glue up, wait, let it dry, do the next section, let it dry. So, but there'll only be 3 sections per level, so it shouldn't take too long to get it done. And we've got the process down pretty well. So
yeah. But definitely a nice look to it, and it's going to be nice and smooth, and it looks like we're going to be able to use this plywood after all. It looks like it's holding up pretty well and able to do the job that we want it to, and we were able to use the inside.
So once all the railing is done, then we'll just clamp it to the posts, mark them, and then cut a notch in there so that it comes in, because this will come in a good inch at least this way. And then
Because there was a viewer, I forgot the name, but who suggested doing the railing on the notching on the outside versus the inside, and I think that'll give us a little bit more room in the stairwell itself. So I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah, because it for sure.
But a lot of great ideas, folks. We really appreciate all that feedback, and I guess the next trip is to the store.
To the store.
Get the plywood ready. Get it cut. Oh, and I got to mention our winner from the photo giveaway, Jeff Manzoni. You won the lake picture. I know a lot of folks were voting for this one, but stay tuned this weekend. I'm actually going to announce another update on our website that I'm developing. So if you're still wanting to get one of these, they will be available for purchase soon. So, but congratulations to Jeff. I know he's been commenting on our videos, and everybody stay tuned because some of your favorite photos, the Vico photo and the Fire Cloud photo, are still up for grabs. So hopefully next week we'll be able to give one of those away. But thanks, guys, and thanks for your support, and we will keep you posted this weekend as the railing gets finished.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.